Oratio Imperata. God our Father, we come to you in our need to ask your protection against the 2019 and coronavirus that has claimed lives and has affected many. We pray for your grace for the people tasked with studying the nature and cause of this virus and its disease, and of stemming the tide of its transmission. Guide the hands and minds of medical experts that they may minister to the sick with competence and compassion, and of those governments and private agencies that must find cure and solution to this epidemic. We pray for those afflicted. May they be restored to health soon. Grant us the grace to work for the good of all and to help those in need. Grant this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen. Mary, help of all Christians, pray for us. Saint Raphael the Archangel, pray for us. Saint Roch, pray for us. Saint Lorenzo Ruiz, pray for us. Saint Pedro Calungsod, pray for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Union Bank Global Linker SME Learning Series. You know, we've tackled many topics in the past, including how to go digital to future-proof your business. We also had discussions on maximizing lead generation in the digital world, as well as data privacy and how you can protect your business and your customers. You know, if you missed those episodes, go and watch them in the OLearn page. I'm sure you're gonna learn a lot from those episodes. I'm Jerry Ila, the co-founder of OLearn, your e-learning platform for SMEs, and also Tarki, the automation tool for field employees. And this afternoon, we will talk about how you can export your products to other countries to help your business. I'm sure many of you are wondering how you can do that because it's a global stage nowadays. You're not just limited in your own city, in your own province, or even in the whole Philippines. You can actually export your products and sell to customers around the globe. So please say hi and where are you from sa ating chat box. Yon, please say hi and where are you from sa ating chat box. Now let me introduce my co-hosts. The first one is the chairman of AFI and the founder of Retail Academy, Mr. Eric Kaeg. Yan, hi Sir Eric. Yan, good afternoon.
Everyone. Yes, this
Yes,
is our fourth series for the Union Bank Global Linker, and I'm excited to listen to our resource speakers regarding exporting.
yes. And also, we also have the Vice President, Union Bank SME Platforms Head, Mr. JP Soliman. Hi, JP.
Good
Yan,
afternoon,
wala.
Sir JP.
Sorry, ayan na. Okay na.
Yan.
Hi
Namiss lang yung
everyone.
boses mo eh.
Hi sa mga nanonood dyan. Hello to all those Global Linker members also who's watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Ako rin, I'm very excited to learn about exporting. Something na hindi natin masyadong kabisado, but it's
Yes.
nice that we have experts who are willing to join us today to tell us more about export.
Yes, and I think it's a big potential. It has a big potential dahil 'di ba marami mga products dito sa Philippines that are export quality. And I'm sure yung mga SMEs kasi minsan kinakabahan sila, natatakot sila na baka mahirap mag-export to other countries. But in reality, yan, may mga companies like yung guests natin this afternoon who are willing to help them fast track yung exporting process.
Right, right. In fact, ito nga, like the topic for today, how it fits to e-commerce, di ba? So, a lot of people are also, na-encounter ko din mga clients before, sinasabi, mahina naman ang export kasi unang-una, kailangan may tao ka doon para magbenta ng produkto mo, di ba? Kailangan someone reaches out to potential clients in another country. But in reality, there are guys like our guest today who can help you, and e-commerce can definitely help you. Uh, Having an online website is not just about business to customer or B2C type na transaction. Madami dyan, business to business, B2B. So we
Yes.
can maximize that channel for exporting.
Yeah. And I think isa pang maganda doon is yung pag nag-export ka, bultuhan. Di ba?
Mm,
You deal with B2B, bultuhan. So, kumbaga, you'll have big volumes. And of course, hopefully, you'll also get more revenues out of, more profits and revenues out of it.
right.
Sir
Yes.
Jerry, Sir JP, speaking of revenue, the exchange rate is what? Dollars.
Ah, oo nga.
Oh, yun. Something that's very attractive for exporters.
Yeah,
Yes, of
yes, yes,
course.
yes.
Maraming nanonood sa atin, Sir Eric and also JP, si Bam Disimulacion. I hope I pronounce your
Good
name right.
afternoon.
Hi sa inyo lahat. We also have Dennis Balmoris from Makati, then si Jennifer from Pampanga, si Greg from Sydney. Wow, we have someone from Sydney.
Wow.
Hi, hello sa iyo, Greg.
Hello.
Si Emma din from Pasig City. And then, yan, hi, JP Fernandez from Davao.
Oy,
Uh,
ito tayo.
yeah, si Romel is also here. Tapos si Maricar Cole from Quezon City. Si Bong Aficionado from Quezon City. Yan, thank you so much for watching and we're so excited dito sa pag-uusapan natin. I hope you are as well. For those who just came in, please say hi and where are you from sa ating chat box para naman yan, ma-recognize namin kayo.
Yeah, you know what? I hope that a lot more people, especially those in the provinces, can also watch, no? Kasi doon maraming mga real export quality products,
Yeah.
di ba? In fact, a lot of mga tourists nagpupunta dito para lang bumili ng mga hand-woven bags, di
Yes.
ba? Ay, tapos kanina na pag-uusapan natin yung coconut oil. Kung may mga gumagawa ng virgin coconut oil dyan, naku, sisikat kayo. Mag-export na kayo.
Yeah, actually if you go to the 'di ba sa Amazon, sobrang mamahal ng mga
Right.
yan, virgin coconut oil na yan. Tapos galing din sa Philippines. Makikita mo yung ano
Alam mo,
yung ano na diyan kung saan siya galing.
tama kayo, no, Sir Jerry, Sir JP, no? When I go around to the negosyo deployment, we get to meet the mentees. They're not startups. They're actually capable of exporting their products. At sabi nyo nga, marami sa ating mga regions na potential to be exported to other countries.
Yeah. I think yung government merong OTOP na program, right? Yung one town, one
Yes,
product.
one town,
And
one product.
yeah, many of those are export quality. So,
Yes.
yan. If you're okay, we'll call in our guests now so we can talk about exporting and e-commerce, why it's a perfect fit, especially ngayon na nasa quarantine tayo. Ano bang impact ng export market dito sa for Filipino SMEs? So, let me introduce our guests. So she spent the last 8 years of her professional career in the export industry. Prior to founding One Export, she was affiliated with Monde Nielsen, where she covered North American and European markets. She is also a graduate of the Asian Institute of Management, where she obtained her master's in business administration. She is passionate about revitalizing the Philippine economy through exports and believes in the power of MSMEs to lift the Philippine out of poverty. So please help me welcome the founder and CEO of One Export Trade and Services Incorporated, Miss Mel Nava. Hi,
Hi
Mel.
everyone, hello.
Yan, we're so
Good
excited
afternoon.
to have you, Mel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Jer, may
Yes,
napapansin ako, pag nag-webinar tayo, palagi isa lang ang babae, tapos puro tayo lalaki.
tayo, para naman ano, yan, merong thorn
Oo.
among the roses. Tayo yung roses.
Yeah, oo nga, oo nga.
Yeah. And we also have the head of sales ng One Export. He has been in the export industry for 10 years. So alam nyo, grabe yung experience ng ating mga guests this afternoon. And he has been tapped by the government and non-government agencies to speak in symposiums encouraging Philippine MSMEs to export. And having worked with fast-moving consumer goods companies such as Mondenisen, Lucky Me, and Century Tuna, he has grasped on the retail landscape of various international markets. And he considers exporting as one of the greatest tools to help the Philippine economy and various industries in the country, including technology and innovation. So please help us welcome the head of sales for One Export, Mr. Dominic Milan.
Hi. Good
Yan.
afternoon,
Yun. Hi,
everyone.
Dom.
Salamat. Thank you for having us.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, nag-ano pa yung kanyang camera.
Yes, so
Okay
yeah,
na.
yes, okay na. Thank you so much,
Okay. Thank you.
Doms and Mel for being here. I'm sure marami sa mga viewers natin are all excited to learn how they can export their products, what exporting is, and moving forward, especially in this new normal, how can they tap uh, the global market, 'di ba? Kasi 'yon, sobrang laki ng market na 'yon. But before that siguro Mel, Doms, if you maybe you could introduce what One Export is. Ano nga ba si One Export before we go to your presentation?
Okay, so One Export is a one-stop end-to-end platform helping MSMEs with their exporting needs. So we do everything from documentation, we assist in terms of labeling, and we also assist in terms of order processing and finding buyers abroad. Currently, we help sell products of small and medium businesses in the US, Australia, and the Middle East and Singapore. So, of course, we're trying to grow our market base, but of course, the core of our business is really helping MSMEs with all of their exporting needs. And every day we learn something new. We learn that some of them actually akala nila like pag-ship out na yung product, okay lang. But apparently, hindi nila alam na, you can actually save taxes because of certain documents that you have to file, or you can actually price your products better for the markets that you serve. So we help handhold all of our MSMEs, and we do have a platform. So it's www.oneexport.net, and we encourage people to sign up and join the platform so that we can really assist and help the MSMEs with the specific needs. Kasi syempre it's different per product or um, it's different per industry. So we tried as much as possible to help uh, whatever exporting need there is in whatever country they decide to pursue. So yeah. That's what we do. And then, of course, with me is Dominic. Dominic is sales. And the reason why he's here is because he understands the specific market demands abroad. So it will really be able to help yung mga small and medium businesses should they decide to export somewhere, and at least there's a deep understanding in terms of market demand. So yeah.
Nice. Ako actually the words I like doon sa sinabi mo Mel is end to end and then hand holding. I think yun yung kailangan ng mga MSMEs. Kanina pa ako nabubulol, sorry. MSMEs na syempre walang alam, 'di ba? They don't know where to start in terms of exporting their products. So it's good that you have end to end solution. Parang you mentioned labeling, 'di ba? So even
Yes.
that you help those mga small companies do that. I think malaking tulong yon when you handhold them in this entire process because I know it can be really complicated and overwhelming, especially for those new in this in exporting.
Yes. Ayun.
Yeah, and
So,
I think you have a video you want to show about
yeah, we have a
what
short
one
video,
export is.
yeah, that we'd like to show.
Hi, I'm Melissa Nava, and I'm the CEO and co founder of One Export. We are a tech enabled end to end exporting platform that helps micro, small, and medium enterprises based in the Philippines export globally. The Philippines has a lot of potential. You have a lot of resources, but not a lot of exporters because the mindset is currently not export oriented. In fact, this is evident because you have a declining export statistics from the Philippines. The Philippines only comprises 3% of total Southeast Asian trade. We currently have 180 suppliers, which we bring to three markets globally. We have seen the difference after exporting these products because the small and medium businesses that we have worked with were able to grow their business and they were able to create globally competitive products. Now, statistically, if we are able to give a sale of 10,000 US dollars to a micro, small, or medium business, they are able to grow their business by buying more equipment or by employing another person. So because of this, we're able to create a positive impact in the economy by job creation and improvement in exports. We believe that the process of exporting is difficult because of the different regulations that people need to comply with. That is why what we have done is consolidate all of the requirements, process documents, compliances, and labels much faster, find demand for our SMEs abroad, and eventually also help international buyers source better from the Philippines. The future of Philippine exporting is bright, and I'm really excited for what our company has in store to serve our MSMEs and international buyers better. All the hard work and effort that we all do goes back to our goal, and that is to lower down the barriers of exporting and innovate global trade.
Wow,
Okay,
ang galing. Ang galing.
okay. So, yun, we're one
Nice.
export. And yeah, I guess, yun nga, I'm here today with one of my co-founders, si Dom. We're actually a team of five co-founders, Marco, Karen, and Dan. And I guess we're here today because in the light of COVID-19, and with everybody going digital, sabi mo nga, Jerry, like, what's, the next question really for micro, small, and medium enterprises is what's next, diba? What's gonna happen next? What's the next step? And maybe maybe exporting can be the next step, right? And so we're here to discuss, what we can do. Maybe you're an MSME that has not yet exported and you want to be able to export in the future. So what are the things that you need to be able to understand to do that? Maybe you're an SME that maybe you're already exporting, right? Or maybe you don't know what's going to happen next in the future, and so we have some tips also. But you could also be maybe you could also be a business that is already online, and right after COVID you want to export. So we're here to be able to tell you at least the basics. Of course, we understand like some people here have different products. So, syempre, that will be a longer discussion. But here, at least here, we'll be able to give you the whole overview of what you really need to take note and take into account. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, so we're excited
Yan,
for this
so
webinar. Thank you so much for having us.
yan, siguro unless you have questions pa Sir Eric and Sir JP, we
Now we
can
can
proceed with
talk.
the So we'll proceed with the presentation of Mel. So for those who are watching, yan, get your notes, notebooks, so that you can take notes while Mel and Dom is sharing their insights. Okay? So for those who just came in na hindi pa nag-comment, please say hi and where are you from sa ating chat box. And also please share this live stream to your friends and family so that more people will be able to watch it. Okay, we'll give you the floor, Mel and Dom.
Okay, so yan. So hello everyone. Again, I'm Mel, and yun nga. I think we already discussed the reasons why we are here, no? And so we hope that this webinar will be able to somehow help you or give you a starter in terms of exporting. Um, we're just gonna go through the definitions. Wait, sorry. Oh my gosh. Wait, sorry. Okay, we're just gonna go through the definitions very quickly. And so basically, exporting is the process of a local company sending goods or services to another country in the form of a sale or a trade. Of course, exporting here does not necessarily have to be you sending goods from like it's not just about products. It can be like BPOs are also a way to export. Or if you're a virtual assistant and you assist somebody in the US, for example, that's a form of exporting in the Philippines. And so that's the basic definition, which I believe the DTI Export Marketing Bureau also uses. And so, as much as possible, DTI is encouraging exports. But why are they encouraging exports, especially at this time? Just for a brief context, we all know that the COVID-19 is not just a health issue, it's also an economic issue. And why it's an economic issue, GDP, where most of the country's growth is based upon, is normally computed in this formula. No? So it's consumption, which is, if we eat outside or we spend money on goods and services, and then you add that with investment. So that's in the form of savings or that's in the form of investing in insurance or the stock market. Um, and then you add that with government spending. So the government is spending in terms of infrastructure or healthcare or other benefits to the members of the society. And then you add that with the net of exports minus imports, right? So this is the basic framework of the economy. And normally, without COVID-19, the Philippines is generally a consumption-driven economy. People will always buy stuff, buy products, eat in restaurants, try something new. So that has mainly driven the economy. And it's also a high investment economy. Like people highly invest in the stock market, where they put their extra cash, or they invest in insurance. That's why insurance companies are also very profitable. And of course, the government spending, it's always been high because people want to be able to serve society. And imports has always been high because if there are needs and you can't manufacture it here in the Philippines, you get it, for example, in China. So this has been the framework of the economy, and because of this, if you've noticed over the past 10, 20 years, we've always had an increasing growth in GDP. We've always, our GDP has always been growing. And so that's why we have been recognized in other countries as, a growing economy, right? And so that has led to other people investing in the Philippines and back. But we all know that COVID-19 happened. So this whole thing is it's a curveball to all of us, right? We didn't expect that the impact was going to be this big. We initially thought that the lockdown, for example, was just going to be for a month, but of course now we know it's been extended for 2 months. And so given this, this will actually lead to GDP sliding down. The conservative estimate is from a 5 or to 6% growth in GDP. They're looking at a 2.2% growth at maximum, right? This could be lower depending on how much we recover from the COVID, right? And so this is the reason why the government wants us to export. You know, the government, DTI, EMB, DTI, they have been encouraging exports. In fact, they have not stopped exporting at the time of the lockdown because you need to export to be able to somehow grow the economy, right? So now with COVID, you have lesser consumption, so less people will be buying stuff, products across markets. So nobody's buying from restaurants, only takeouts. People will hold on to their money because they don't know either when the next sale is or if they will still have jobs in the future. But government spending is up and imports are up. And so this will actually lead to, because your two major factors are of GDP are declining, it will eventually lead to government decline. So if you actually improve exports, you actually improve the economy. Um, but before we talk about actually exporting, I'd like to lay out the scenarios you actually have to work with, right? There are three scenarios at this time. The present COVID-19 situation, where there is still no vaccine available or no alternative clinical cure, right? I mean, of course, what we're hearing every day is, okay, maybe this medicine will work. But until this goes through clinical trials and, the government, governments and hospitals and all of the health sectors will say, oh, this is an actual cure. Normally, like how you would have a cure for cough and flu, you take this vitamin. Until that happens, it's going to be really hard. And of course, until there's while there's limited testing, um, the current situation of the decline in consumption will happen, right? So that's scenario number one, which we're facing now. Um, we will only hope that it gets better. And so the next phase or where it gets better is we have a modified present situation, which is we have an improved global situation. Yes, there might not be any vaccine, but at least you'll be able to test people and trace people, and you'll be able to get people who are sick out of the way, so you won't get a lot of people infected. And then, of course, you have a post-COVID situation, which is when there's a proven vaccine or alternative cure available, mass testing is applied, and then eventually the economy will go back to normal, right? But I guess the point here is without the cure or without prioritizing health, we can't really go back and work on the economy, right? So we have to be able to work with these scenarios right now, really because if we don't, then our businesses are at stake here. So yeah, I'd like to basically run through recent scenarios. What parts of exporting will be affected, and what are the things that you really have to take into account at this time, no? And I will go back to these three scenarios when we talk about these factors. First, the first thing that will be affected will definitely be regulations and compliances. Expect stricter regulations moving forward. Expect stricter health requirements moving forward. Supply chain is currently affected and will be affected moving forward. Meaning, where do you get your raw materials? How do you manufacture? Are you able to deliver on time? Market demand is another thing that you will have to look into. How consumers will buy your product, how people view your product, right? And what are they going to be prioritizing from here on? And financing is definitely affected. As we've mentioned, people, we will always investment, as I mentioned in the previous slides, investment will take a dip, meaning people will always try and hold on to their money as much as they can because these times are vulnerable. You don't know what's going to be happening next. So for regulations and compliances, from COVID, like the present reality until we have some sort of modified economic or health structure involved, um, regulations will mean that, since lawmakers are not able to push for a lot of changes at this time, the priority is to process documents or compliances for essential goods. We see that happening in the Philippines now. If you want to export, they will mostly only process goods that are related to essential goods. So if you want to process um, food FDAs, you'll likely get an update soon versus if you process a non-food FDA. So these things are prioritized, and but basic regulations will be complied with. Post COVID, however, there will be stricter health and sanitary certifications. Because, for example, the nature of COVID is something that we don't know. But we know, for example, if you sneeze, it's going to stay in certain things. So they will be asking countries, or will be asking for, okay, who manufactured my product? The person in the plant, are they do they have COVID? How can you assure that they have COVID or not? So those things will eventually have to be disclosed. And so if you look at it, these things are things, if you're looking to start an export company, these things are things that you already have to take into account if you will be planning to export. So um, expect stricter regulations. They'll probably ask for certification. They'll ask for a detailed process in terms of how you handle your raw materials. How do you know that there will be COVID or no COVID in this package, right? So these things are important. For supply chain, which is currently disrupted, of course, right now, COVID, current supply chain is limited. So if you, of course, workers cannot go to the place of work, so they cannot manufacture a lot. So of course, there's a slowdown in manufacturing, especially for essential goods. But right now, the priority is to be able to deliver, on time, or to be able to deliver at a certain time, even with a skeletal workforce. So the services that are able to deliver, and are able to service their customers well, will thrive in this time. Modified COVID situation, meaning we have some level of testing. Supply chain recovery of non-essential products will resume. So you're talking about beauty, you're talking about construction, you're talking about other products that were not necessarily prioritized during the ECQ, for example. But expect stricter health requirements imposed on manpower. So, for example, right now they're already doing this in offices. Even if people will come in to work, they'll check if they're sick. They'll check if they're a PUI, they're a PUM. So some level of tracing will have to happen, and employers or people involved will probably ask for, okay, how do we make sure that you really didn't have COVID, right? So it'll still affect supply chain in a way, but at least somehow, at least at this point, there will be some local sales. No, for export sales, it'll start to move, but again, not in the normal manner that we used to be accustomed to. And then, of course, in the post-COVID situation, there will be a complete shift in supply chain. I think governments have already mentioned this. There will be supply chain dependencies that will move away from China. They're going to be moving from China to another Southeast Asian country. Of course, we'd like to be able to be a part of this. But however, right, until we fix our own manufacturing problems, right? There was a report where yes, we're number one for BPO, but people in other European countries like the or US, they don't look at the Philippines as a less like they don't look at moving to the Philippines because we still have a lot of manufacturing things to work on. Like before COVID, cost of fuel was high, our cost of electricity is high, so we'll need to be able to bring that down, and it's a complete regulation that we need to be able to consider if we want to be able to compete, right? People will need to now integrate with the local supply chain because, of course, we can't just keep importing products or it's going to take a longer time. And again, as mentioned, stricter health requirements will be required. Market demand at present, COVID during the COVID season, people will really look at the essential products, right? So if your products are not an essential good, the question is, how do you make your products essential? How do you make sure that people will still want your products at the time that resources are very limited, right? Of course, trusted brands will be preferred over brands that are not known. So really take this time to educate people about your brand so you get brand loyalty or at least brand knowledge. And then, of course, I think as mentioned a while ago, everybody is now starting to go online. So because purchases are online, you have to be able to make sure that you have online presence. There's a way for people to buy your products online, right? During modified ECQ, there will be an increase. Again, there will be an increase in demand for non-essential products like home and beauty. But how do you make sure that they prioritize your products over others, right? And then, of course, post-COVID, there will be a major shift in online channels. But people also see an increased trend in health and wellness because people don't want to get sick, right? So if you are in the sanitation business, so if you make cleaners or if you make like turmeric tea, for example, or things that will possibly reduce the chances of COVID, then they will probably buy your products. For financing in general, cash is king for both suppliers and buyers. So if you're a SME, as much as possible, you want to make sure that you have cash. Buyers are the same, right? So sometimes for a sale to happen, you need to borrow money. And what people are projecting is because there might be an economic downturn, that interest rates for lending might be lower. So if you are an MSME, like of course we have Union Bank here in this webinar, right? You can already at this time you can already think about maybe borrowing money from the banks eventually because the interest rates for lending will go lower, and so you can start preparing for those documents, right? So you need to be able to make sure that you try to work on your risks, or minimize your risk as much as possible. Make sure that you don't have any default payments if you're a supplier. And you also need to look for other alternative sources of funding. So, the future of lending might be positive for you because the interest rates are expected to go down. So let me try and convince you why you should start exporting now, no? Parang, I mean, or why you should think about exporting at the time of COVID. Of course, it's very important to expand your current market. Um, of course, now you have from the Philippines, you're already the supply chain is disrupted because not a lot of people can sell their products here, right? But if you expand your market, that does when another pandemic, hopefully it doesn't happen again. But when something happens, at least you're not dependent on just one market. You're not just dependent on the local market, right? Right now is the best time to export because, as mentioned by Sir Eric a while ago, you get more money for your dollar, right? The dollar used to be at 50. It even came to a point where it was 49, right, last year. But now it's at 50.9, or roughly at a higher 50. It's expected to go up given that most economies are down. So if you can actually get raw materials cheaper, produce cheaper, and then make more profit just from the exchange rate. And again, trade is an essential activity. It's not going to stop. As mentioned, governments encourage trade during the time of a recession or a pandemic or a downturn because it's a way for them to be able to augment losses in the economy. And so right now is the best time to do it. It's the best time to think about it. I'm going to be shifting the presentation to Dom because Dom is our chief sales officer. So he actually understands the market demand, and so
Hi, everyone. By the way, I would like to hope everyone, wishing everyone safety in their homes. Thank you very much for listening to our webinar, and we're hoping you can learn a lot. So we're in the part where we identify the current state. So here, we'll be presenting Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we are all familiar with this. And during this time of COVID, people prioritize the bottom two, which is safety needs and psychological needs. Right now, people prioritize food, water, and then for safety, alcohols, medical masks, etc. This is not only true for consumers, but also the market itself, the buyers, the traders, everyone would like to sell and buy safety and psychological need products. So if you want to export as of this moment, your product should fall under one of these categories, especially if you're targeting a COVID stricken market, which is most, if not all, right? So next, we'll be presenting the different customers that you target when you do exporting. So we have B2C, B2G, B2B, and for distribution. So mostly this would fall under selling to consumers, to government, to institutions, and distribution. So as of the moment, we are under COVID. So most of the products that these customers are interested in are usually still, food, the necessities like noodles, canned goods, and face masks, alcohol. So be it if you're trying to sell to institutions, to government, to consumer, or to distribution, they most likely would only be interested to products that answer to the psychological or the safety needs of the market as of the moment. So, but what if the COVID would, of course, we all hope that the COVID would improve in the next, coming months. So these are still the same customers that you'd be working with if you want to export. So distribution is making sure our products are available in different retail markets, government, or selling it to institutions directly, like let's say selling to Horeca, to restaurants, to hotels directly, or sometimes selling directly to consumers, just like what the topic of this webinar is about, e-commerce, so selling in Amazon, Alibaba, etc. So now we'll be presenting a map. This map shows us the countries which are affected by COVID heavily and the markets which aren't that affected. So as you can see, the darker the shade of the red, the more affected that market is. So mostly this would be the North American market, Europe, of course, and China, some parts of Asia as well. So as you can see here, if you try to export to countries with the dark red hue, so this would be America, etc. So they would most likely be only interested if you're gonna sell them basic necessities like food and medical supplies. If you try to sell them, let's say, products that are considered luxury, they will not be too keen in importing those products as of the moment. This is very, very understandable and a bit of a common sense as of the moment. So, but what if you try to export what you currently have? And what if it doesn't fall into one of the necessities or a medical supply product? So you target those markets which aren't that affected by COVID. Although few, maybe you can try Australia, some parts of Africa, and then China is opening up a bit right now. So maybe you can try, if your product, let's say you sell chocolates and it's not considered a necessity as of the moment, I hope. So maybe you can try selling your chocolates to Africa or Australia, where the COVID is not that strong anymore, or where the COVID that didn't affect their market too much. So now moving forward, I would just share, just to veer away a bit from COVID. In exporting, basically the Philippines is known with two main products. Of course, dried mangoes and coconut products. So these products have penetrated the mainstream market, meaning the Americans in America buy these, the Japanese in Japan buy these, not just the Filipinos abroad. So what did they do? For dried mangoes, basically they try to sell it first locally. And then when the product is accepted and doing good here, they say, why not sell this abroad? Why not expand our market? As for the coconuts, well, this is a bit of a recent craze. Well, when popular celebrities, Hollywood celebrities would endorse, hey, I drink coconut water, or, VCO is good to my skin. So basically, that's where the trend started. And luckily, the Philippines is an agricultural economy. We have lots of coconuts, so we're able to penetrate this market. So what we're trying to say here is that there are two things we have to consider when exporting. That you try to build your brand first here locally and then go expand globally. But not all products do this. Some are able to penetrate the mainstream market right away. But if we would give a tip, we would suggest that you develop first here everything, try to stabilize your manufacturing, your capacities, etc., before going global. And the other thing is, if we take advantage of the global opportunities. Let's say you're in the food industry and you feel like, let's say you manufacture noodles. So that's a basic necessity needed by, let's say, food banks in the US right now. So you can take advantage of that opportunity and sell your noodles to the US. So one would think that, hey, I'm ready to export, but it's not that easy, unfortunately. So we'll be sending some problems that one may have to endure when exporting. And of course, one expert is here to help you out. So here's the process of exporting. This is a very basic process. We'll go through it very briefly. So you do market insight, then you try to close a sale, you fix the documentations, you do labeling, which I will discuss a bit more later, and then order processing, delivery, and payment. So what are the some of the problems that we encounter? The first one would be the production capacities. So this is mostly the problem of MSMEs. So when we say MSMEs, for those who don't know, that's micro, small, medium scale enterprise. Sometimes they don't have the production capacity. So let's say we talk to a customer in China and say, okay, I'm very interested with your product. I like your brand. Can you supply us 10 containers per month? So that would not be a problem to the bigger companies, but for an MSME, that would be a problem. Most likely, they can only produce, let's say, 2 containers per month. So an importer, they would pay for listing fees, they would invest in marketing. But if they see that there is a problem with capacity, they may not be willing to take in your product. So that's one of the problems. The next one would be unit of economics. So for the 4 piece, this is basically the price. And the cost to manufacture in the Philippines is relatively high compared to other countries, even compared to our ASEAN brothers and sisters. So basically, our cost of electricity is high, very high, let's say, compared to Thailand. So the tendency is that the products produced from Thailand are a lot cheaper than the products produced from the Philippines. And still, price is a very, very important factor. Importers, distributors look at price, even sometimes even above quality. So this is a bottleneck that people here in the Philippines, I mean, I hope with the help of the government as well, we can all work together to improve the costs here to produce our products so we can become globally competitive. And then the next one, this is one of the intricacies of exporting. Each exporting country, I mean, each importing country have their own regulations. So let's say for the US, as you can see on the right, that is the nutrition information of that's for the Australian nutrition information. So you can see it's very complicated. On the left, it's the nutrition facts for the US. So when you try to sell your product, let's say a food product, you have to adhere to the different nutrition fact table presentation of different countries. And it's not just the nutrition information. There's a different way of declaring your ingredients list, the way you design your packaging. So it's different per country. So we consider labeling as a highly technical country. And again, I would just like to mention that One Export is developing a platform, an AI, where you can send a picture of your label, and we will translate it, transform it into to an export-ready packaging. And then the last one, another problem that we hope we can help you with as well, is that most of the bigger companies already in the Philippines have partners already abroad. They've developed the relationship with buyers for as far as 30 years back. And this is something that the MSMEs don't have. They're just starting to export, and they would consider looking for a partner is very difficult. But gladly, we have enough contacts to help you with that. We were employed by the bigger companies, and so we have contacts to these buyers, and we can try to offer your products to them. So this is one way of our company can help MSMEs. So next. So here is, I'll present something briefly, but a bit more informative to the people who want to export. So the first step would be to understand the market. This was presented in the earlier slides. So understanding, let's say, in the COVID-stricken market, let's say, is it wise to enter China as of the moment? What markets are good to enter as of the moment? So I just forgot to mention, when you talk about exporting, it's not just about products, it's also about services. So if you're in the franchising business and you want to open a franchise or a branch in another country, we can also help you with that. And you can also do that because that's part of exporting, part of helping the Philippine economy as well. So we'll go into that a bit later. So here, the next part would be choosing an appropriate product. So you have different lines. Which of your lines would work well in this market? So if you are in the COVID-stricken market still, of course, the products as mentioned would be those that answer to your psychological needs. The basic would be water, food, etc. So if you have different line of products lines, I suggest you focus on the products that answer to the psychological needs of the consumers, because that is the product that would work as of the moment. But if the hopefully the COVID continues to improve, I mean the COVID scenario. So if that would be the case, you can try to push for your other products. And then the next one would be the reformulation and repackaging. So basically, when you try to export your product, what you're selling here or the franchise that you have here, you cannot just bring it there. You have to reformulate and repackage your product to be able to meet the needs and wants of the market. So it doesn't have to be appropriate, meaning it has to pass through regulations, just like the NutriFact table that I sent or that we showed you, or about franchising. When you try to bring your, let's say, lots of pizza franchise to another country, uh, you have to make sure that the menu is in Chinese if you're trying to bring it in China. That may sound like simple or basic, but it's actually a regulation. They won't allow you to set up there unless it passes through the regulations. And then the other thing is if it appeals to them, the aesthetics. You have to understand that it's not just about, oh, I have a product and this is the technicalities of this product is okay now for export. But you have to see, is this the kind of product that the Japanese would be interested in terms of the color, the shade, etc. So you have to look into that as well, and we can help you with that. And then the next would be government and export documents. So this is very much technical already. There are some documents that are per shipment, and then others that you have to renew every year. And you can also go to our platform later, which I will share, where you can go there and we can help you process some export documents. And then once you do that, you try to find the customer. When you try to find the customer, you try to close a deal. Of course, you have to talk about the price, the delivery date, the capacities, etc. So this is one of the difficult part. We can try to help you look for a buyer. We can suggest, I think it would be best if you sell it at this price, etc. So you have to understand, are you entering the blue ocean market, a blue ocean market or a red ocean market? So we're going to help you with that as well. And then as for the next part, of course, that's shipping, bringing your product there. We talked with forwarders, with shipping lines to bring your product there. This is after, of course, the negotiations. And then lastly, of course, the most important for all of us, the payments and collection at the end of the day, right? So there are different payment terms, Incoterms first for export, FOB, CFR, CFI. So we're going to help you with that. And then for the payment terms, 100% payment before production, etc. And we all have to be careful. We have to verify if the customer that we are speaking to is, reliable or safe, because the government, the laws surrounding inter-country regulations are not that stable yet. So you really cannot sue a person if that person, let's say, is from India and doesn't pay you. It's hard to, sue that person, unlike if it's, an Philippine to Philippine transaction. So we can help you with that as well. Help verify if that customer is, safe and has been in the industry for a long time. So now I'll show you briefly. I hope you can visit our website. It's www.oneexports.net. So there. So you can register here. If you want to export, you can be one of our suppliers. You just have to register here, put your product, etc., and then we'll try to showcase your product. This is the e-commerce part. So if I'm an importer, let's say from Dubai, and I'm interested with Philippine products, I will visit the One Export site and I will see your product there, and I can contact you directly through the platform. And who knows, you can have your first export deal through the One Export site. So that's it. Thank you very much. We're very much open for questions right now.
Might I add, like, for payments, actually, Union Bank, JP, maybe you can answer this,
Thank
no?
you.
Yeah, Union Bank has a facility, di ba, that can process your, like dollar account, right? So should you need, get export payments, you can actually make it go through your Union Bank account. So yeah,
Yes, correct. Yeah.
yun. Okay, so we're open for questions. Should you have any?
Nice,
Yeah.
ah. Ang dami pala. Ang dami palang kailangang isipin
Uh,
pag mag-export ka ng produkto.
right, right.
Good
Well, we
thing
don't want
nandyan ang one
we don't
export.
want to sugarcoat it na parang, oh, exporting is fun. Siyempre, parang, for example, if you don't have the proper documents, nahuhuli ka for taxes and duties abroad. And then, some people, they pay, like, for example, the cost of product is just 5,000 pesos. Sometimes they pay 25,000 pesos in documentation fees abroad. Kasi nga, naju-duty sila. And then they didn't know this. No? So, as much as possible, we try to lay it out. That way nga, parang hindi nahihirapan yung mga tao in terms of exploiting. Better to understand na mahirap talaga siya from the beginning rather than we sugarcoat it tapos biglang mahihirapan sila kapag nag-export na.
And then they suddenly leave, no? Oo,
And then ang
tapos
tendency here is hindi na sila nag-export kasi mahirapan.
right. It was quite interesting also to note na yung even the packaging, yung mention ni Dom kanina, even the packaging, how you present your product. I remember in some of the travels that I did, yung anak ko kasi paborito niya dried mangoes. The same dried mango has a different packaging in
Same.
Korea, a different one in Japan, a different one in the US, no? But it's the same brand. It's technically the same brand. Iba-iba itsura.
Same brand. Yes, correct.
Yeah, totoo. Galing.
Yeah. And I think maraming mga questions sa atin ngayon. So, keep your questions coming. We'll be entertaining them in a while. Siguro, yung tanong ko lang, Mel and Dom, maybe you can share some success stories from your clients to inspire everyone. Yung potential talaga ng pag-i-export.
Okay. So, well, what we've done is for some of the small and medium enterprises, the reason why we work with them is yun nga, parang some of them really don't know where to start, no? So, one of the brands that we have is Moringa and More. So, they're a Moringa brand, and we sold them to Australia and the Middle East, no? What we've done for them is, for example, help them in terms of labeling sa Middle East market. So yung mga Arabic translations. We also help them with yung nga, like labeling for the Australian market. There was a time where actually nagka-problem yung products nila with regulations or regulatory officers in Australia kasi parang yung quality ng product was parang ganito. The other thing that you have to look into, of course, you have products that you consider. Pero sometimes, kasi for example, when you ship the product, okay siya sa Philippines, tapos kunwari, biglang uminit sa Australia, biglang umamig sa Australia. So kung ano yung state niya here in the Philippines, hindi na siya ganon abroad, di ba? Parang, so, nagka-problem with quality issues. But yun nga, because we're a platform and we help these small businesses, pati yun, we were able to negotiate, no? Na so parang even if the buyer was of course slightly not happy with the product because of external factors, right? They're still able to export, and so we negotiate on that behalf. So far, we're proud to say that roughly our average sale, normally we would start with at least 10 cases of products, no? And then normally when we send them out naman, and it's successful in the market, our reorder rate is 80%. No? So whoever we sell, we normally get to reorder immediately. Of course, this was pre-COVID. So there are other efforts currently that we're doing now to make sure that the distributors, because we understand that during the COVID season, the priorities are different. So right now, we're finding a way to even help the MSMEs and even some of the brands that are not known to still get out there. No, so either in e-commerce or in other channels, like as Don mentioned, we focus on the markets that are starting to recover from COVID, and so we use that as a strength right now to to penetrate the market. So far naman, like our customers, we were able to do a reorder rate, and our average sale would be somewhere within 300,000 to 500,000 pesos. Kasi nga, as mentioned kanina, bulto namin binibili because it goes to the stores or it goes to the retail stores of our clients
Okay.
or
Yeah,
buyers abroad.
so yeah, that's kumbaga inspiring story, Mel. Thank you. Maraming mga tanong sa atin and I guess we can start with Lan. Sabi niya, documentations daw for export. Pwede ba i-cover ng one export?
Yes, yes, we actually cover documentation. So if you log on to the platform and after that you get verified, what you do is you just order the document. We will give you a quote. Normally before we, ano, kasi it's a different document per industry, no? So it's not like a one document fits all. So for example, you're in the handicrafts industry, and then you have certain fibers. We have to go to yung PhilFIDA or yung Philippine Fiber Authority because we have to get a certification for that when you export. If you're in seafoods, we have to get aside from the documentation that you get, we have to go to BFAR. So in the platform, we actually it's well, you can order, but we can also assess your company depending on what your company needs. We'll be able to process your documents. For full disclosure, because of the COVID situation, we are trying our best to process everybody's documents. No, of course, while FDA, for example, they're online, they're approving documents or something, or they're approving, for example, mga license to operate. If you don't have the documents before that, like if you don't have your barangay permit or barangay clearance, it's going to take us a longer time to get it because we need these documents because they work on a basis of a checklist, no? So if we don't have the complete documents, which we will only get at the time we lift the ECQ or at least semi lift the ECQ, we won't be able to process it as fast. Before COVID, we were able to process it in about 120 days max. No, this is considering, for example, yung FDA, normally it would take six
Yeah.
months. So we would normally process within 90 to 120 days. But given the ECQ and the skeletal workforce, for example, syempre yung mga barangay offices natin, even if they're open, their priority is giving relief goods
Yeah.
to the residents. No? So it's very hard for us to fulfill, but we try our best to fulfill. So we still
Okay.
have people that are running the documents as of now.
Okay. Sige. Um, we'll just run through the other questions. Mukhang maraming questions ngayon.
Yeah.
Sabi niya, yes, si William daw, will all products be double tax daw, like tax in PH and tax abroad as well? Can one export help with costing and final price to charge inclusive of all expenses? What can you say about this, Mel or Doms?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
um, if you get taxed in the Philippines, it's normally because most of your like export is technically VAT free.
Yes.
So
We would like to
you
emphasize that exports is tax free. Yeah.
Yeah, exports is tax free, right? But
Okay.
they normally make sure that you're tax free if at least 70% of your product is manufactured or sourced in the Philippines. So, for example, you make a bag, but 70% of that is made in the Philippines or sourced in the Philippines, then it's tax free. Now, for example, if it's different when you're getting it from abroad, obviously you get an import tax and then you get the necessary VAT with that. You get taxed. Maybe that's the context of the question of William. You import something, you get taxed here. But ideally, when you go abroad, when the products leave the Philippines, they don't tax you anymore for that sale. So it could be like, for example, in the event that you get something and then you get taxed the VATs here because you imported it, and then you decide to export it abroad, that sale going abroad, from you to going abroad, wala siyang tax. You get duties depending on the type of product and the type of trade agreement that the Philippines has with the country you intend to export to. So to the question of film, yes, we help with costing and exporting, but we have to understand what the product is, because the taxes and duties differ from the, of course, the trade agreements. Trade agreements is very essential. So, for example, if you sell to ASEAN, your taxes are almost zero. So when it gets there, your duties are almost zero, unless it's an industry that they're trying to protect. Of course, the
Okay.
second thing is, if it's an industry that they're trying to protect, like for example, flour in Europe. If you're going to export flour to Europe, they're going to tax you heavily because it's a flour milling industry, right? So it really depends on the type of product that you have, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
just to add
roughly
as
how we
well,
can answer.
we can also help you with pricing. So we study the pricing, we work backwards. So what's the target SRP in that target market, and then work backwards. How much do the importers usually make? How much the shipping usually cost? So you try to price your products that would be competitive when it hits the shelves there abroad. So we can also help you with that.
Yeah, that's great. Iyan nga yung nasa mention kanina, no, parang end-to-end. That's good because yung mga MSMEs who are starting to export, may isa lang silang kausap, di ba? One export lang and they'll be able to get the help they need, yung hand-holding na yon throughout the entire exporting process.
Yes.
May mga, gusto may question ka, Sir Eric, yeah? Before we read other questions?
Yeah. Okay. Mel and Don, si Don mentioned earlier regarding the franchise, no? Uh, sa documentation or regulation in terms of IPO and for countries that require halal, are you able to assist in those areas as well
Yes,
Yeah.
regarding
yes, we do.
IPO
Yes.
and halal?
Yeah, we'll be able to assist with the intellectual property. So, just for very briefly, intellectual property differs also from country to country, no? So, for example, you wanna franchise, you open a franchise in China. The intellectual property laws there are different versus the intellectual property laws in Europe. But there are certain laws that cover most countries. So, for example, the Philippines is a signatory of the Madrid Protocol. So, whoever country is signed in that Madrid Protocol, you can file your IP under the Madrid Protocol, and whatever your intellectual property will be covered in all of those countries. So, for example, somebody decides to register your product under your brand name, it'll be subject to the certain intellectual property laws. Intellectual property laws normally cover it's either first to file or first to use. So first to use meaning you use the brand. So you can file it kasi pero like nakatenga lang there. Or you can ang first to file is kung sino yung maunang mag-file ng ano. Right now it's normally first to file, no? And then you can for example, you're the one for example, you own the brand of right, Lucky Me, you own the Lucky Me brand. Basta mauna kang mag-file, nasa iyo yung IP. Pero magkaka-problem if somebody filed before you. So I guess that's where the contention happens, and then you can file another case in court. But as much as possible, file within certain laws that cover the jurisdiction ng mga intellectual property laws natin.
Thank you. How about the halal certification? Are you able to help also about the halal
Halal
countries that
certification.
require?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But okay, so unfortunately, halal certification is more expensive here than it would be in Indonesia because it's somehow subsidized by the government. But halal we're able to help. We normally just tell like halal depends on how big the MSME is. So if they normally look at revenues, they normally look at the size of the business before they give an outright quotation on the halal certification.
You also have to talk to the partner that you'll be working with abroad because they sometimes work with certain halal bodies only. So if we try to help you with a certain halal body, it might not be recognized when it gets there. So
Like certain countries only recognize certain halal certifications. Like there are certain, for example, in Qatar they only recognize Islamic Dawa. No, no, they only recognize IDCP. So so they only recognize certain. So you have to understand where do you want to either franchise or sell the product to, and then who is the certain halal certifying body that is recognized in that country.
Okay. Sige. Any other questions, Sir Eric?
That's okay for now. Thank you.
Okay, sige. So we'll entertain more questions from the viewers. So if you have other questions, feel free to post para yan masagot ng mga speakers natin. Si Justin, of course, this is on the minds of entrepreneurs. How much would it roughly cost daw to export? I know masyadong ano tawag mo dyan, iba-iba siya, depends per situation, but how would you answer this question?
Roughly how much would it cost to export, correct? Okay,
Mm-mm.
so we can give you a very rough number. So normally, okay, for sales, okay, normally what you would do is to get an export sale, you would have to go to a trade show. This is pre-COVID, so you have to go to a trade show, sell your products, or find a buyer abroad. No? So there's a cost to the sale. Um, what the average MSME would have to spend if you're not super creative or parang kasi some people naman they just do online and then they get orders from there, no. But if you're a traditional business and you want to go to a trade show, normally it would cost you something like 500,000 pesos because you have to pay for the trade show booth. Although sometimes that's already waived by the government. Sometimes the government is able to cover that cost, no. But you also have to take into account you have to pay for your own travel. You also have to pay for your own hotel. Normally, at least travel and hotel is at least 150,000 pesos already. And then you meet with buyers abroad, right? Normally, you don't get the first sale on the first trade show you go to. Parang lucky if you get your first trade show, you have a first sale. Normally, you would have to go to maybe 3 trade shows because you have to be able to establish a sense of credibility to the buyer. But just to credit the government naman, they're also doing mga inbound business matching. So they find buyers abroad. That's one way where you can save the costs. No? So they bring the buyers here and then they make them meet the suppliers, no? And then they decide the buyers abroad who come here decide, okay, this is the supplier I want to engage with. Um, so selling cost is different. So it could range from at least 150,000 pesos upward, depending on how much you really want to spend or depending on how much you want to buy. But normally they would order naman either if you're an MSME at least 10 cases. If you're lucky and sabihin natin it's a mainstream product, they'll order a container agad. So whatever your sales cost was, mababawi mo naman. For documents cost, you have to get an export license. No, so an export license that would be basic. So then you would also have to get the necessary documents that are connected to the product that you're carrying. So, for example, you're carrying handicrafts, you need to get, and then your handicrafts have fiber, or the country abroad wants you to get a USFDA. So the documents vary, but I guess the minimum spend on the documents, the minimum, and this is a conservative estimate, is about 8,000 pesos. So 8,000 pesos kasama na yung cost of documents, kasama na yung pag-run ng errands for the documents. But that's the minimum considering like sabihin natin you're just doing a very simple like if it was like handicrafts. If it was food, for example, it's a little more complicated because you have to get food and drug FDA. You have to get an FDA license to operate. So you have to be a licensed exporter by the Philippine FDA. If you're going to go to the US and you want to export food, you also have to get a US FDA. Um, the cost of US FDA to other countries is something like 100,000 pesos. Pero with us, it's 25 or 30,000 lang. Kasi parang we have to pay the agent abroad who will be approving or kung kanino siya kukuha. So I guess at the minimum it's 8,000 per document. Like maybe a little more depending on how complicated the product is.
Okay. So I guess yung pinakamahal talaga would be the selling cost, as you mentioned, no? If you have to attend trade
Yeah.
shows abroad. But if you're, sabi mo nga, creative enough, do digital marketing, maybe you can bring that down to just a few thousand pesos. And the rest, I think, medyo, ano na, manageable na for
Yeah.
MSMEs, yung
So you
Pero
mga
don't
ano
need
lang,
to
documentation
just to
costs,
add lang.
etc.
Yeah, to not scare them off lang. Sometimes you can, partner with us. When we go to trade shows abroad, we bring in a variety of
Yeah.
products. So there's parang a way to minimize the cost. So we can bring
Yeah.
your products there so you won't have to go there. And hopefully we can close a sale for you. So
Yeah.
yon, and that's a way to minimize the cost also.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Doms. Because in that case, kumbaga yung cost of going there is spread out over
Correct,
several
yeah.
MSMEs, right? That you're
Correct.
that's trying to export. So in that case, mas mura siya. Si Alvic also has a question. Basically, since marami daw nangyayari, what products can be added, any industries daw or sectors that your company consider as bright spots for exports, given that yung na-mention nga ni Dom na minsan may mga anong tawag mo dito, mahal yung production cost ng Philippines. So any ano daw parang bright spots for products na maganda i-export from the Philippines.
Ako the way I see it is not really on the products because affected siya by trends eh. What can be, sellable at this time may not be, after a couple of months. So I think yung more on the bright spots is understanding where you can sell. As of the moment when you try to say sell in the Middle East or the US, medyo saturated na yung market. So that's a very competitive market already. So I would suggest yung mga bright spots is if you have a set of current products already, try to sell them to the developing countries. Let's say try to sell to Africa. Maybe that country is yet to be developed, so you can be part of the brands that are going to grow there. So, yun yung parang bright spots na I'm seeing at. Kasi if you're going to ask which product, it's gonna be hard eh. Kasi parang, kumbaga mamimili ka pa lang ng product. Pero most MSMEs kasi, they have a set of products already. So, it's just a matter of where to bring it na lang.
I see. Yeah, thank you so much, Dom. For those of you who are watching pa, tapos have some more questions, yan, feel free so that our speakers can answer them. Si Jennifer sabi niya, cost daw, is it possible to export fresh produce to other countries?
Yeah, fresh produce would be one of the priority industries right now. So, for example, in Singapore, where they don't have a lot of um, mga, like, wala naman silang masyadong madaming farmland, right? But they need to feed their people. Fresh produce is something that you can actually ship out. But as much as possible, we're looking at shelf stable produce. Kasi nga, before COVID, there used to be cargo planes that can bring the products there and can reduce the freight charges, di ba? But yun nga, because you also have to look at the economics right now. Parang people will try to get the cheapest possible price, but kailangan nating i-ship out. So dapat naka-reefer container yung fresh produce, which will normally be shouldered naman by the buyer. So these produce, what produce exactly, it has to be more of yun, shelf stable, yung kaya sa container, yung kaya nating ma-ship out lang within the nearby countries para ma-maintain yung freshness ng product. The cost to export it, well, what we will have to get would be a DA certification that you can export. You have to be able to certify the farm to export the fresh produce. And because normally when we export, they want to be able to see sang farm ba nang galing yan. And then we can help you from there on, parang even getting the buyer for fresh produce.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Any other questions, Sir Eric or kaya JP? Any comments?
Actually, I do have a question. So one expert
Probably
does.
in the future, no, we will have another session for the franchisors.
Oh, for the franchisors, maganda yun, no? How the
I'm sure they'll
franchises
be
could
very
export the service.
interested how to bring their brands abroad, especially those who are already ripe, was nationwide presence, and some of them are actually hit today because most of the malls are closed. No? So we really hope to engage with one export as far as the franchise group is concerned.
Right,
Yes. That.
right. Yeah, I have a question pala to Mel and Dom, no? So since you deliver the whole service from end to end, what if I'm already an exporter? Exporter na ako ngayon, and I reach out to one export. So the value add that you can bring is to expand markets na maybe hindi ko pa nakikita. You guys can consult, 'di ba? If oh, your product pala is perfect for Australia or maybe Africa, like you mentioned kanina, 'di ba? Yung mga ganun.
Yes,
So
correct.
so in that scenario, since I'm already an exporter, let's say I'm also doing online selling, etc. Pwede pa rin mag-engage with one export.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, our value add would be we help you in terms of like expanding your markets. The other thing that we also do is we can also help you with labeling, no. So even though we are not exporting,
Wala ata si Mel. Nahinto.
Choppy yata siya.
Wala, choppy.
So basically, yun, that's it.
the big companies, some of
Yeah.
them still go to yeah.
Nawala ka lang, Mel.
Ay,
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead,
sorry.
Mel.
Okay. No, but
Wala.
yeah, in our case, some of the big companies go to us because they also need labeling help. No, so what we would do is because the labels change, the regulations change every so often. So what we would do is make sure that the labels are export ready. Or tatanggapin dun sa country na hindi sila masa-stop ng customs. So
Right.
those are things we can do if you're already exporting.
Okay, okay, okay. I think marami pang mga questions dito eh, oh. Sa gilid, ang dami pa eh.
Jerry?
Yes.
Actually, ang dami, Jerry, di ba? Ang daming questions talaga from the audience eh.
Si Shi, quick answer lang about documentation. Yes, I think yun na-mention ni na Mel kanina and Dom, yeah, they can help you with the documentation.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the question is, sino yung exporter? Actually, if you want to be the exporter, we can process your export documents. So you can be the exporter. If you want it to be us, then we can use our documents and then you don't have to pay for documentation anymore. But if you want to be the exporter, we'll process your export documents. That's where the cost comes in.
I
okay.
see. So pwede pala yun. Pwede pala na-ride sa export capabilities ninyo, documents ninyo.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can use our documents and then it doesn't, yeah.
Ganda yon. Si Chichi naman, I think, na-mention din to kanina na in terms of crafting deals daw with the clients para protected sila from unscrupulous buyers. I think, na-mention ni Dom na you also do this, no? You also help MSMEs, kumbaga, do some background checks on the potential buyers. Tama ba?
Yeah, we work with the government mostly for the background checks and for other exporting companies. So we ask them, have you dealt with this customer? Okay ba sila magbayad, etc. And then we work with the foreign trade services. So each country sa abroad nagpapadala yung DTI ng representative natin, which handles mostly trade. So we can ask them, have you heard about this company? Is this a registered company there? So that's how we help verify customers.
We also do online checks, no? So we look at forums, as in talagang sometimes we're able to see parang yung buyer nyo, kunwari, is working under a different company name, tapos nakita namin yung mga reviews. We bring that up to you para outright you can say, should you sell to this buyer or not. So we have ways to do it even online.
That's
But
good.
yes, we help craft deals as well. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Si Ralph naman, sabi niya, they are exporting daw human hair extensions to Africa. Tapos now they're using Google Ads tapos sa Alibaba to acquire prospects. Meron din bang other platform so they can also get the help of one export and then
One export.
other ano pa ba platforms or things that they can do if they want to do it online?
Yeah, well, one for example, Amazon, obviously, but the problem nga lang is with Amazon, their operations are mostly dedicated to essential goods, no. Um, the other channels that we would of course like recommend would be DTI EMB, who is a very supportive partner of One Export. DTI EMB can also uh, direct inquiries to you should there be uh, inquiries like that. Because normally they would go through the government. So some people would go through the government to make sure that the suppliers are legitimate. So yeah, one way to do that is yeah to work with government.
So I would just like to mention a little brag lang that One Exports was tagged by asked by DTI EMB, the Exporting Marketing Bureau of the Philippines, to help make their exporting manual.
Yeah.
So we're the company who made their manual. So that's ano lang, konting bragging rights lang for One Export.
Yeah, yeah. Just so
Galing ah.
you know our stuff.
Galing.
Like we look young and
Galing ah.
but we really know what we're doing. So
Ako may konting pitch lang din, may konting pasakali, kumbaga. If you're also looking for ways to validate a buyer, Africa actually and Europe are two other countries that the Global Linker family is trying to penetrate as well. And inside our platform, we have customer verification and validation. So, yung mga members sa loob ng Global Linker globally, we can show you kung totoong kumpanya sila, kung validated company sila, and the extent of how much their company can perform. So those things, no, we are now big and heavy in India, Singapore, and we just opened up a new country, Vietnam. So magkakaroon din tayo ng maraming initiatives to Vietnam. In fact, we are in talks with the Indian trade ministers and some uh, government offices there. We're trying to open up a global linker trade corridor that will help facilitate imports and exports better from two countries. So I guess one export will also be a very, very big addition to that project that we're starting in Linker. Yeah,
Thank you.
maganda yun.
Galing, galing.
Yeah.
And maybe we can for those JP that are asking, well, ask Jester siguro to post the link for Union Bank Global Linker for those of you who are interested to join Union Bank Global Linker. It's actually
yeah.
free. Maraming mga tools na nandun to help MSMEs. And
Yes,
isa
and sorry, and si One Export nasa loob ng Global Linker. They are one of the service providers inside Linker, and they have a special, hindi siya promo hindi siya discount eh. They have a special pricing for Global Linker members. Gawin natin parang ano to, parang Easter egg hunting. Search this One Export, makikita nyo kung ano yung sinasabi kong discount that they're giving inside.
No, yeah. Actually,
yes.
what we do is, if you register, we give export consultations for free, no? Kasi we really need to be able to handhold the MSME. So everything has to be curated per SME. Kasi yun nga, the regulations differ per product. While there are certain regulations that are general across all, there are certain regulations that are differ per product, and so that's why we need to be able to offer like certain consulting services talaga para ito yung gagawin natin para hindi you don't spend so much kasi we don't also want people to spend too much so yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So we have the link of Union Bank Global Linker and napag-uusapan na rin lang ang Union Bank Global Linker.
Go,
I
Jerry.
might as well mention that Tarki is now live in Union Bank Global Linker. So ayan, if you're looking for a timekeeping software for your employees na nasa bahay sila, hindi mo alam kung accurate nga ba yung mga time and attendance nila. Yan, pumunta kayo sa Union Bank Global Linker. You'll be able to avail of our Tarki system. Waive po yung setup fees worth 75,000 yan until May 15. So ang subscription lang, it's only 1.5 per month for 5 employees. So it's a good way to have tamper-proof date, time, photo, and timekeeping for your employees. Ayan.
Grabe, magse-selfie ka para mag-time in ka, no? Ibang klase yun. Galing, galing. And also, just to share, kasi there was one question kanina, one
Yes.
viewer who was asking about financing, export, I think export invoices, things like that. Inside Global Linker, we also have a partner, and kilalang kilala, I guess, nila one expert to. A good friend of ours, Jerry, si Magellan. So, Accudine finances uh, export receivables. You can find them also inside
Yan.
Global Linker. Yeah. Yeah.
Yun. So for
Actually,
those,
magpa-plug din ako. Like, we will be financing export receivables soon.
Yeah.
Basically, yun nga, everything that goes through our platform, meaning kasi we have buyers, so we crowdfund the orders, and yun nga, our buyers naman are secure and they pay us. So we are able to finance orders also at a very competitive rate.
that's good, that's
Right.
good. Ayan, so grabe, 1.5 hours na tayo.
Well, no?
But yan, the time really flies so fast kung sakaling ganito kaganda yung discussions natin and marami tayong natututunan, hindi mo namamalayan yung oras. So I guess siguro last few words sa atin kina Mel and Doms for our audience.
So for us lang, parang, of course, we'd like to be able to help everyone to export. Just please register at oneexport.net. The registration is free. Of course, it's hard for us to say this is the solution for you. So normally what we would do nga is to curate the experience for you by, yun nga, we normally talk to you first in terms of what your product is, and then we guide you through these are the documents that you need, because you don't need to get all of the exporting documents. It doesn't have to cost you so much. So it really depends on what your product is, and then you only get the documents per product, right? And then yun nga, parang we'll be able to outright tell you if you have a demand for certain countries, and we'll also be able to help you find buyers. So there, Dom, do you have anything to say?
Please visit oneexport.net. Thank you very much. We hope we didn't scare you sa exporting. We know na it's difficult, it's complicated, but we're here to help you. Also, if saturated nyo na yung, let's say, more or less yung Philippine market, so where else to go but overseas, abroad, international market, right? And there's a bigger parang goal in all of this is to help also the Philippine economy. So the more we export, so currently mas marami tayong imports, so the more we export, the more we help then the Philippine economy. So thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dom and Mel.
Yan,
Ayan, grabe.
salamat. Grabe,
Ang
expert
dami
talaga,
natin na
mga expert.
pag-usapan.
Oo, talaga expert sila sa ginagawa
Ganda,
nila.
may idea na yung mga viewers natin, no? Lalo na yung mga nasa region that it's still possible kahit COVID, no?
Yes.
Basta kailangan yung ating produkto, may capacity ka, and you have the necessary documentation and employing best practices here in the Philippines.
Right, right, right.
Right. Si Mike, sabi niya, glad to be part of Global Linker.
Oh, hi, Mike. Thank
Ayan.
you so much. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much. And for those of you who haven't registered yet, yan yung link to register sa Global Linker. It's free and you'll find a lot of tools there to help your business.
Yes. All right. Sige. Ang haba na to.
Okay. Oo nga. But before we go, mag-plug lang din ako ng isa pa. Kung okay lang. So, si O'Learn actually have partnered with Sir Paulo Tibig to have this session, My Little Boss. Ito yung, kumbaga, one of the more popular trainings ni Sir Paulo Tibig for kids to teach them the value of money and entrepreneurship. So, it's happening on May 9, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. So we'll also be donating 300 pesos to the frontliners out of this, the revenue from this training. So please check out, go to www.olearn.com/littleboss. Yan. Lagay na lang natin Jester sa comment section. So for those of you who are interested, join us on May 9. That's from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Or you might as well comment na lang dito na you're interested. Just put in Little Boss para we can send you the details.
Little boss. Imagine mo, no? Tama yan, tama yan.
Yes, turuan na yung mga kids natin ngayon habang nasa bahay, di ba?
Oo, pero to everyone, the kids are not the retirement plan. Sabi nga nila.
Yes, totoo yan. Okay, any last words, Sir Eric and JP?
Sir Eric, please.
Well, I hope maraming natutunan mga viewers natin, ano, and it gives some confidence to all of us that there's still a possibility of bringing our brands globally. Of course, to the help of Union Bank Global Linker and One Export.
Okay, sa amin naman, to all the viewers and to all the members that we have in Linker, we promise you a lot more relevant, very relevant education series and webinars for you. So please check out everything that we're doing. We send reminders whenever there's a webinar coming, and we post them out doon sa loob ng platform. So please join us. Again, it's a free platform. You do not need to pay anything para makasali sa Global Linker. You just have to sign in.
Yes, and we'll have a webinar on Monday, tama ba? Webinar ng Union Bank Global Linker. So watch out for it, 2 p.m. So we'll have that as well. And for those sa mga O-learners, will have the live session, O-learn Live 16th episode tonight at 8 p.m. So please join us as well. Yan, maraming salamat ulit sa inyong lahat. Thank you so much for joining us in this for the ano yan, one and a half hours na dumaan. So again, thank you so much and see you sa next learning session ng Union Bank Global Linker Monday 2 p.m. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
weekend.